Welcome to BreezeLine, where you'll say, ta-ta, T-Mobile, because we have 99.9% network reliability, and they don't. That's right. Time, weather, or even streaming in a basement won't affect our superior service. That's because we have real internet, backed by our fiber-powered network. And T-Mobile, well, they just have a 5G cellular network. So for a limited time, find your perfect speed with prices starting at $19.99 a month for 24 months. Terms and conditions apply. Go to breezeline.com to learn more.
Unlock the best of the world with Trafalgar. Book your next vacation with up to 15% off top-selling tours and explore trending worldwide destinations like Portugal, Egypt, Japan, and Italy, while enjoying one-of-a-kind experiences along the way. To unlock savings, contact your travel advisor today. Call Trafalgar at 866-513-1995 or visit trafalgar.com/deals. That's TRAFALGAR.com/deals.
I'm Justin.
And I'm Jay.
And together, we're Cryptids of the Corn podcast.
We are where scientific and magical thinking combine.
We take my background in biology.
And my background in exploring the unknown.
We cover everything from sea serpents, UFOs, Bigfoots, the paranormal.
Sky creatures, land creatures, cavern creatures.
So please join us at Cryptids of the Corn podcast.
Doing that, I was face to face with it. It was holding me by my throat, and it felt like it was sucking something out of me.
I probably should have been more scared than I was when I witnessed the exorcism.
I turned and looked on my right side. When I did, there's a beam on the side of the tree, a large beam. It's looking at me, and I'm looking at it.
After I hit the lock button and looked back up, I saw red eyes staring back at me.
That they're going to show multiple gods all over the earth, be able to speak in people's languages, and at that point, it kind of converge into this one entity, which will be revealed as extraterrestrial. You'll realize that aliens are the gods of old, and at that point, it'll wipe religion out of the context of humanity.
No, it couldn't have been a person, I know that. I know that people can't run through the woods like that.
So this thing comes into view, and I see it. It's 50 yards away from me. It's walking on two legs. It's huge. This is a big, hairy-looking being.
Welcome. I'm your host, and this is uNcomfortable.
Welcome back to the show, my friends. I am your host, Eric Szilagyi. If you've had an uncomfortable experience and you'd like to have it featured on the show, please get a hold of me at contact.uncomfortable@gmail.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, both at Uncomfortable Podcast 65. Please remember to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you can. Please share the show with others. It's the number one thing you can do to help to get Uncomfortable showing up in the listeners' recommended feeds. The more people listening mean the more people coming forward with their stories for you each week. In the show notes, you'll find a link to the Uncomfortable Discord server. We've been doing some Friday night live chats in one of the voice channels, and it's been a blast. Hell, tonight's guests were even lurking around in there last Friday. Justin from Cryptids of the Corn was in there, as were many of the regulars. So, feel free to join, and I will see you there soon. Lastly, keep your eyes open, because right around the corner, I am going to announce the launch of the Uncomfortable Patreon. I've had a number of you reach out and ask me how you can help support the show, and this will be your opportunity to. The Uncomfortable Patreon will be the only place that you can access Uncomfortable Afterthoughts. Afterthoughts is a video companion to the normal broadcast episodes. It is not going to be a video version of that week's interview. More so, it will be in addition to. I don't want to give too much away, but I can tell you, I have not seen another show do this. And I feel it's the best way that I can think of repaying you for your support of the show. Now, with that out of the way, it's time to get to tonight's show. I wanted to bring you something special in a way much like other 20th century charismatic cult leaders like, say, Charles Manson, Jim Jones, or even David Koresh. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will, please give a warm, uncomfortable welcome to self-proclaimed cult leaders, Kyle and Steve. Gentlemen, welcome to Uncomfortable.
What's up, Eric? Thanks for having us on, my friend.
Yeah, man, we're excited to be here.
Thank you.
That was quite the intro. Quite the intro.
Well, cult leaders, you are. I mean, the Holo cult is something special, man. I've seen it a couple of weeks now firsthand, and you guys are rocking.
We appreciate that. Yeah,
we try. We have our good buddy Tony Merkel to thank for the old Holo cult. When we were at the Dogman conference, he was talking about our listeners, and they're so loyal, it's like a cult. So we just decided to run with it.
That's where it came from, huh?
Yep. Now it's turned into its own thing.
That's awesome. Well, like I said, I've seen it firsthand. The couple of times that I've popped in your chats during your late night videos on YouTube, man, they welcomed me with open arms, and beyond that, I mean, people are throwing comments at me, and just a great environment to be in. So I encourage everybody, hey, before we even get into it, tell everybody where they can find you, and I know you guys are busy. You do your night shift, you do your regular gig, you guys got jobs, and then you're taking an extra night out of your week to be here with me. And I just want to say I really appreciate it.
We appreciate the chance to be here and hanging out with you, Eric. We had a good time having you on our show, and we love to return the favor and help build the community all around. As far as where you can find us, we're on pretty much every podcast platform. YouTube, we post all of our audio from our shows on YouTube. We do Night Shift every Wednesday at 8 p.m. You can come hang out. It's a live show. We're on all social medias, Facebook, Instagram, the whole nine. Just search up Holo Sky Podcast and you will find us.
And that is 8 p.m. Central, correct?
Yes, okay. Absolutely.
All right.
Still hasn't clicked that I have listeners in other time zones, in my brain.
Or other countries.
People that listen to us are like, people that listen to us are like in Illinois.
I had a fantastic experience 2 Saturdays ago. I had somebody who has followed me for quite a while, and she's reached out a couple of times on Instagram. She's from the UK, and she wanted to talk to me about the things that she's experienced, but she didn't want to be on the show. And how do you say no to that? If you say no to that, then you're only doing this for content. And somebody asked me, why would you do that? And I was like, well, why would you not? How do you tell somebody no? I mean, you talk about, being a safe place to talk about things and having an open mind and all the things that we preach. And then I'm going to tell somebody no, I can't make time for you. So, she got installed Skype on her computer, and on a Saturday afternoon for me, but I think it's like 6 hours difference. We sat and had a 2-hour conversation about all the bizarre shit that she's been dealing with her whole life. And I think we've talked about this before, the extra aspects that we were not expecting that comes along with doing this, and how gratifying it can be to have those kind of interactions with the people that listen to you. So
yeah, that's a fact. I mean, we have people reach out quite a bit that have experiences that they're not comfortable putting them on the show, and you almost get to a point where it's responsibility is not like the word that I want to use, but it's kind of like, I don't have a better word for it. Yeah. You're kind of a mouthpiece for people that do want to share their experiences, but you're also, like you said, like a safe space for people that just need somebody to listen to them, or need somebody to give an opinion on what they've got going on in their life. It just kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. And it is special whenever people reach out to you like that, because they're in their vulnerable state when they do that, and as people who dabble in the paranormal and the unknown, that's what you're here for. You want to hear the weird shit. And sometimes that's the weirdest of the bunch, the ones that are uncomfortable sharing that stuff. And then on top of that, another way to look at that is we're building a community that way, of trust.
Exactly.
And then furthermore, those stories, those lessons go into your overall knowledge of what's out there, right? Because we all do research, me and Steve, that it is a part of our show, but it doesn't stop there. Every time you talk to somebody, every time you, especially like this, where you can see their face, you can see the way they react to things. You learn so much more. It's so enlightening to sit down and have conversations like that.
Yeah. And I hope I know she'll hear this. And I hope that she doesn't get upset with me for kind of speaking out of turn. But I mean, I think it's important to say, the woman, she was with her mom when her mom passed, and she saw some strange things, and she wasn't dealing with it well. And my perspective of it was, you got to see her. She was with other family members too, and they didn't see anything, but she saw it, so she thought she was, kind of losing it. And I told her, I said, what if that was just a gift for you? What if that was just for you, and you got to watch the most incredible passing, the ascension of your mom into, and she broke down, started crying. And I mean, that's a powerful thing. And for us to be able to sit there and for that to come out of our brains, to say that to somebody and have it be so impactful, I mean, it's a heavy weight. I don't think people realize that sitting on this side of the microphone, that there's a heaviness to what we do. And, sure, it sounds like we're having a lot of fun, and for the most part we do. We're talking about things we enjoy talking about. We get to hear some crazy, weird stuff. And, but there is a weight to what we do, and it's nothing I ever expected. I didn't expect 2/3 of the stuff that comes along with doing this, at all. You guys, you're both shaking your heads. Yeah, I assume you're in the same boat. You guys experience that as well.
Oh yes, absolutely. There's always, there always has been, and there probably always will be this stigma and this taboo that comes along with paranormal experiences. And I feel like on this side of the microphone, we have to try to ease as much of those insecurities as we can for people, because a lot of people, like encounters that we have, people haven't told anybody. Mm-hmm. anybody at all. And they see something in guys like us, guys like you, to where they've instilled the trust in us that they can talk about this, whether they want it on air or not, that you know, those insecurities kind of go away. And that's like I said, I don't like using the term responsibility, but it kind of is. You know, we're sort of like, if they don't want us to air it, we're sort of the keepers of these stories. Like we're
almost like a sin eater.
Yeah.
You know, Kyle, I watched Constantine.
Awesome movie.
And I haven't seen it probably since it came out. And I just watched it about 3 weeks ago. And when you say kind of like a sin eater, that's kind of like what it is.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because when you're in touch with it, when you're in touch with that person's story, a part of that story absorbs into you. You know, you feel that emotion. Like me and Steve have heard stories that are gut wrenching where you're just like, oh my Lord, like I could not imagine dealing with this situation. Like and sometimes we make light of it because of who we are, but at the end of the day, it's never, that weight is still there. It's still a part. And then that, like I said earlier, it adds to the binder of strange inside each of us, because like okay, so we just did it's not out yet, it'll come out next week, but we just did an episode on Hat Man. Yeah. And so there are things in the paranormal world that register differently with me. Some are extremely interesting right off the rip, and then some of them fall on the lower echelon. And for me personally, Hat Man was on the lower echelon until we did this story, until I did a bunch of research into Hat Man. And there's like, what I'm trying to get at is like, you learn more about a subject that you were unfamiliar with, that you may have brushed off at one part, but now you understand the severity and the possibility of said subject. You know what I mean? Because Hat Man was always just more or less a shadow person to me. But now, in the research that I'd done and the conversation me and Steve had, I think it's a lot more than just a shadow person. So when you absorb, when we absorb Eric's story about the witch, we take a part of that with us, and we're like, all right, well, like it proves to an extent that dark magic is real. And then you see this shimmer later on in life, and now that puzzle piece clicks into place, and you're like, well, wait a minute here. Yeah. I've seen this before. I've heard this before. Right?
Yeah, I've explained it before as kind of like, I'm no savant or anything. I mean, I'm a fairly decently educated guy. I think I got a pretty good head on my shoulders, but I'm not a savant of any kind. It's not like I can rattle through numbers and everything like that with ease. But I feel like I have a bunch of file folders in my head. And when there are specific things that I've heard in multiple different, and they don't even have to be kind of related type stories. They're just things that I've heard over and over and over again. They always go into the file. They go into the file. They go into the file. And, I have files for all kinds of stuff in my head where, these comparisons and these things that continue to make me every day feel that this stuff is so intertwined and so connected that it's just it's bizarre.
And I think you hit the nail on the head when you used the term heavy earlier. I caught myself using that term before, and looking into the things that we look into, doing the research, hearing the personal encounters of people. It does. Heavy is the word. And sometimes you just have to like take a break from it all, because not only are you at certain points dealing with your own experiences, but then you have everybody else's experiences that kind of rely on you. and you're looking into all this other weird shit. So it heavy is the word.
So, what got you interested in wanting to talk to people about these types of things? I mean, I'm sure you've both had your own experiences that led you down this path. Do you care? Can we get into those?
Sure. Steve, you got any you want to share?
I can. My personal experiences aren't all that wild, but it's, at least until here lately, but it's always seemed to like kind of rotate around me, like hover around me. The house I live in now was a house I grew up in, my parents' house. And this story in particular stands out to me. Whenever we were young, my dad was an over-the-road truck driver, so my mom pretty much raised us. And one day, my mom puts us all to bed. It's me, my little sister, my little brother. I'm the oldest. And my mom wakes up because her bedroom is full of this bright red light. So much so that she thinks someone has like backed up to the house and have their brake lights on. So she gets up out of bed and goes to check on all of us. She goes into my room. I'm there. I'm out. My little sister's room. She's in there. She's sleeping. She goes to look for my little brother, who was maybe 4 or 5 at the time, and he's not in his bed. So she's looking around the house, and we have a laundry room that's connected to the kitchen. And the laundry room leads to the backyard. So the house is full of this light. My mom doesn't know what's going on. She's looking for my little brother, Dylan. And as she finally looks through the laundry room to the back door, she sees Dylan open the back door and open it to go outside. And the laundry room like fills with this light. And as he steps out the door, she wakes up. So she's writing it off as a dream. But as she woke up, she sees something at the foot of her bed. She said it was a little, she didn't use the term alien. She said it just looked like a little humanoid figure. And when she sat up and looked at it, it scurried out of the bedroom. And she's like, at that point, I woke up again, almost like a dream within a dream. So she just kind of wrote it off. And we have a neighbor that lives like catty corner from us. And her and my mom would always go out and walk around, like walk 2 miles around town every evening for exercise. So that night after she had that experience, the night after, they're out and they're walking. And the neighbor goes, "What were you guys doing at your house late last night?" My mom's like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Well, me and my husband got in a little tiff, and I went and stayed in one of the boys' room that's facing your house." And she's like, at about 3 o'clock, the whole room just lit up with this red light. She's like, so much that it woke me up. I didn't know what you guys are doing, if you're having a party or whatever. And my mom's like, "You're not going to believe this." Fast forward to now, whenever I live here, I have my youngest boy, Maddox. And we were coming home from his mom's house one day, and I'm carrying him inside. In my front yard, this might not be pertinent at all, but like my front yard, we have a little dead-end street, and then it's a cemetery. Big cemetery out here. So Maddox is little, probably 3. I got him over my shoulder. I'm carrying him in. He's asleep. It's probably 8 or 9 o'clock. And he just starts losing his mind, just freaking out. He needs us to get inside. He needs us to lock the door. So I get him inside, and I'm talking to him. And he's like, there's green skeletons in the graveyard, Dad. Green skeletons in the graveyard. So I'm like, all right, writing it off as just a kid having a dream. And then he's like, no, because I had groceries to carry in. He's like, no. He's like, lock the door. Do not open the door. Just absolute mortification, just terrified. So I get him calmed down. And not too long after that, it was probably a couple weeks, he comes into my bedroom and wakes me up. This is probably 2 in the morning. And I'm like, all right, buddy, what's wrong? He goes, don't let them take me. I'm like, say what now? He's like, no. He's like, don't let them take me. I'm like, nobody's going to take you, dude. You're here. The doors are locked. Dad's here. You ain't got anything to worry about. And I'm like, who's trying to take you? And he's like, they are. And I'm like, take you where, man? And he's like, they're trying to take me to where the bad Power Rangers are. And I don't know anything about Power Rangers, so I'm still quizzing him. I'm like, dude, where are the bad Power Rangers at, buddy? And he goes, on a spaceship. And my blood just ran cold. I'm like, no, I'm not. E.T., if you're trying to mess with my kids, I will fight you. Period. The end. But that was one that stood out. We also had the woman's that lives catty corner from us. Their neighbors also, or not their neighbors, they are our neighbors, but her children also had kind of a similar experience around the same time regarding weird lights in the sky. They were driving home, their car died out, and it's a weird turn of events around this area that kind of just keep happening. As far as it happening to me personally, Kyle's got more personal stories than I do, like prior to the podcast starting.
What is it about that area that you're in? I mean, can you put a finger on?
I have no idea. When we started the show, because we kind of base it around like listener experiences, we had so many people reach out with the weirdest shit from probably a 20-mile radius. Everything from giant thunderbirds in the sky to possible Mothman sightings to all sorts of UFO sightings to like ghosts and this and that and the other. And it's just, when you compile it all to a 20-mile diameter around where we live, like that's like I'm sure every town has their stories, but once you start putting them together, you're like, is there something really going on here? Like, what is the deal with the area? Because it's just in the middle of Illinois. It's like nothing but cornfields and cemeteries for like 60 miles, you know?
Yeah.
But there's just something here. People are seeing something, and I don't know what it is.
Wow. That, you know, when you start dealing with a child and they start saying things like that. Now, you know, like my kids, I let them start watching movies that they probably shouldn't have watched too early in life. You know, my son watched the Mothman prophecies. Till this day, at 26 years old, he still hates red brake lights when he's driving at night. You know, I mean, I did the best I could to screw him up as best I could, but you know,
Fire in the Sky was that for me.
That he was probably too young for that as well. Yeah, that's disturbing when, you know, when your child is, you know, completely innocent and hasn't done anything wrong yet, and, you know, hasn't really had any kind of worldly experiences to manifest thoughts like that, and to exhibit the fear that they're exhibiting. That doesn't seem right. Doesn't bode well with me.
No, it's a different kind of fear when something's messing with your child and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like you're fighting an enemy you don't know.
How long ago was that?
He's 13 now, so probably about 10 years ago. And it's been pretty chill after that up until recently, after the show had started and we'd started poking into weird shit. He had stuff kind of kick up again here when all sorts of hell broke loose, but we'll probably get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, if you want to, let's circle back to that, because I'm curious now. Kyle, what about you, my friend?
Oh man, I've had a lot. A lot of it happened when I was young, which ironically enough probably would have been around the same time frame that Steve's mom had her experience, because I would have been in third grade. So, I mean, do the math there. I'm 36 now.
Now, have you guys been lifelong friends?
Since high school.
Yeah. In high school, it was weird. We ran in the same circles, but like different areas of the same circles, I guess. And then after high school, we kind of just crossed over, and we've been buddies ever since. Been in bands and all kinds of shit.
Yeah, it's been cool, man. It's been a long road. I have something that I can give for your UK listener that you were talking about earlier. So me and Steve had a mutual friend who passed way too soon in life. But the irony to it would be, so they're all, I can't remember if I think they were on their way home from work, carload of guys, right? And it's kind of unclear what happened, but the two dudes in the front seat were like legitimately, they're my best friends. They're my brothers. I mean, I virtually live with these guys. And I was supposed to be with them, but I ended up not getting that job. Kind of a weird turn of events. But anyways, they're on their way back home. And something happens. They end up having a head-on with a school bus. And like I said, the two brothers were in the front seat. The oldest brother was driving. He virtually passed damn near on impact. The two guys in the back seat got messed up. Broken leg or arm, real bad seatbelt stuff. They got messed up. The only one that walked away with no scratch was the younger brother sitting in the front passenger seat. He's the only one. I mean, he did not have a scratch on him. And if you knew his older brother would go to war with anyone, anything, anytime for his little brother. He always looked out for his brother, just like he would look out for me and Steve. And for me, that begs the question that makes you wonder, was that his parting gift? You know, did he do his job one last time? Yeah. You know, that's hard to think about. You want to talk about heavy and being a sin eater. I mean, that's 90% of the time I talk about him, I will start crying to this day. And it's just, I truly believe that there was a reason why his little brother did not get hurt that day.
Wow.
And like you talk about that being that woman's special gift, like though I believe wholeheartedly those things happen.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Have you ever expressed that to the brother? I mean,
yeah.
How's he feel?
He agrees with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He knows. I mean, everybody knew his brother. His brother, like I said, he would do anything in his power. He would do anything. It wouldn't even have to be in his power. He would do anything for you. Did not matter what it was. Did not matter what it was. He was one of the greats, man. He died way, way too early. It was, I don't know. It was a shattering experience. It was probably one of the hardest times in my life that I've ever been through. But ironically enough, me and Steve were dabbling with going to a really haunted location. And I start asking the world for protection, wanting to learn protection, you know. So we kind of go up and down. We get invited to a spirit convention. We go sit down with a tarot card reader. And I always knew, you know, I have a pretty dangerous job. And when I would do sketchy things, I know to some people it might sound stupid, but when I would do sketchy things that I wasn't sure if I would get really hurt or not, I would always close my eyes and be like, Ernie, protect me and get my back today. Like, I need you. And then I'll go do my job. And, you know, I'm still here. But, so I always knew I had that layer of protection, right? So I sit down with this tarot card reader and she's like, ask me a question. My mind went blank, man. It was dead. I had nothing. Like, literally, I could not think of anything. And she's like, you got nothing? And I said, nothing at all. And she's like, all right, let's just see what the cards have to say. I go, all right. And so she starts flopping cards down. And it was like one of the first cards. It's like the third or fourth card. I got a card that said, what was that? Star Brother. And she looked me dead in the eyes and goes, he's here with you, and he's protecting you. And dude, I lost it. Yeah. I just started bawling. Just lost it in front of, there's tons of people here. And I was trying to fight it back, and she's like, no, it's fine. It's fine. She's like, you're protected here in this realm and others. Like he's got you. And like, for me, like that meant so much. So much. But it like I said, it was always inside. I always knew it. But boy, she drove it home that day. Yeah, she drove it home.
Confirmation.
Yeah. And it was, dude, that was probably one of the most powerful moments that in our podcast journey that I've had. Absolutely insane. Like, even so much so, like, Steve was there. And we'd kind of been dabbling around that day, and we're talking about what we're going to do, what we're going to see. And, right before that, we did a handwriting analysis. We both sat down, did it, but as soon as I sat down in that lady's chair, Steve had this feeling. He's like, because he told me afterwards, he was like, dude, I walked away. Like there was something inside me that was like, this is Kyle's. Like I got to give him space here. This is for him.
Yeah.
And he just walked over and did his own thing, and it's weird how the universe answers your questions when you pay attention.
Yeah. And it's a shame that there's so many scammers out there. It's a shame that people have taken on the role of being psychic or a medium or profess to know how to read cards or tea leaves or any of these things. And a lot of them, if not the majority of them, are all doing it for a buck, But when you run into the real deal, you can feel it through every pore of your body.
Yeah.
You know that there is something unreal that's happening. And you don't get that with the ones that are fishing for information and just calling out cold calls and throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. When you run into a real one, that is it's a gift. It really is. We refer to them as having gifts, but they're actually a gift to us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. You can ask Steve, like this woman, like the whole place was full of energy, but like there was like this woman just like radiated energy. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever, like it was just bizarre. Like I can't explain it. I think that just adds to it. Like I can't explain the way, because she paid you no mind. Like it's not like she stared at you or was trying to feel you out. No, she just like literally she ignored everybody, did her own thing. Most of the time was sitting there by herself, just kind of hanging out. And there was just this energy that would radiate off of her where you're just like, what in the world? I can't explain what's going on.
Yeah, I've had that experience late in life with somebody that had those types of things, and they're a friend to both me and you guys have been introduced to her, and it's the other day, just a couple of days ago, I was like, okay, enough, just stop. Because it's not even that it freaks me out anymore. It's just stop. Every day doesn't have to be something. And I can't imagine being in, the position that we're in. We talk to these people and we hear their stories and we hear weird experiences and we have things that kind of tip our perspective to like, and I never thought about that, or, that I can draw something from that as opposed and apply it to something that happened to me. And I never looked at it that way. But I can't imagine what it would be like to have abilities like that. And so many that you talk to, they say it's not like you're flipping on a light switch. It's just always there. And I don't know. We talk about what we do being heavy. I couldn't imagine, how you stay straight doing that.
We do this by choice. They don't get a choice.
Yeah. Yes, you say that, and she actually approached Steve the next day, and I was out taking a smoke break, and she approached Steve, and what did she tell you, Steve? Like, she's glad I was the last one of the day?
Yeah. Because she came up and was talking to me, and I was just kind of making small talk, and I'm like, man, whatever you and Kyle talked about was powerful. I said it had him in a different mind frame after that conversation happened. She goes, I'm glad it was my last of the day because it took everything out of me.
Yeah, so crazy.
She had a different kind of energy there, man. And the whole place, it was the Kansas City metaphysical and spiritual and paranormal convention. It was our first convention we'd ever went to, and the whole place just had big energy. But this woman was just on another realm, man. Like Kyle said, when he went over there, because he'd kind of been flirting with the idea of doing the tarot thing, and I'm like, well, this is our chance. How often are we going to be in a room full of 300 people that are all into the metaphysical? So whatever you want to get done, we better do. And he just kind of gravitated toward her. When he's like he said, when he sat down in that chair, because we'd stuck together because there weren't very many paranormal guys there. And the ones that were, they just like lumped us in this one row. Like it was us and then the Bigfoot guy and the ghost hunter guys. And we were just right there in that little section, And everybody else was like sound healers and retina readers and all sorts of stuff that we had never even dabbled in. And so we stuck together. And as soon as he sat down, something just was like, you need to give these two their space. So I just kind of meandered away and was just looking around, kind of doing my own thing. And then after it was probably, 15 minutes, Kyle came up and he was just like bawling. But it wasn't a sadness. It was just like, it was like life altering.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what in the world happened over there? He's like, you got to do it. He's like, you got to do it. I'm like, man, I don't even like being in my own head. I don't want anybody else in there, Like, I can't deal with that.
It was awesome.
But she was something different, man.
Is that somebody you would consider going back to again?
Oh, I absolutely would. If I ever saw her again, I probably would do it again.
I need to get to some conventions dealing with that, because quite frankly, the only conventions I've ever gone to have been Bigfoot. And my show isn't just strictly Bigfoot, it's one of the things, and it's a fairly popular topic that comes up quite a bit. And I never set out to just do a Bigfoot show, but for some reason, the conferences that I go to are cryptid conferences. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think this next summer, I think I'm going to have to broaden my it's not even broaden my perspective, because I'm already into it, but I don't know why I've shied away from going to those types of conventions. There's a couple of really good ones up in the UP of Michigan that are like 2 days long. And apparently it's one of the biggest ones in the country is up around Sault Ste. Marie. So I'll have to go to a couple of those.
It's weird, bro. Like we've been to Crypticon, Family Visitor, Dogman,
yeah.
and none of them have compared to that spirit convention that we went to. And I'm not saying like one's as worse than the other or anything like that, but like the energy you get inside this place is it's honestly it overloads you. For people that are not used to it like us, it overloads you. Like it was crazy. Like we would get done with that day and me and Steve would just go right back to the room and just pass out. Just being barraged with all that energy, and everybody there is so sweet. So many sweet people there.
It was a different kind of energy, man. And as soon as you walked in, you were just like, the whole building just resonated with energy. It was for two blue collar dudes that are into the paranormal, that was just a whole different realm for us. And the people that put it on are kind of trying to bridge the gap in the paranormal and the metaphysical. So that's why we spoke there. They had Carter Bushard, the Bigfoot investigator. He spoke there, and they had a bunch of psychics and all kinds of stuff there. Like it was a cool setup. I actually, if I remember, they have some shows coming up this summer at different places in Arkansas, and there's 4 or 5 of them. I saw them just post on the Facebook. If I remember, I'll pop it in your Discord.
Yeah, please.
That way you can check it out, and if there's one close, you can hit it.
Yeah.
We were trying to. Did they just do one around here, Kyle? St. Charles?
I
heard
don't know.
somebody saying that because they were trying to do some kind of more east our way.
Yeah.
But I don't know if anything came to any fruition. But
I'll be mad if it was in St. Charles.
Yeah,
I would have gone to it.
If any of your listeners you have a chance to check it out, definitely check it out.
I would for sure.
Yeah, I had a couple of experiences. I was on a friend of mine took me out for my birthday shortly after my divorce, and we were in a beach town. And as we were coming back from the beach, we walked past, and there was a shingle hanging, literally a shingle that was, psychic readings, and they were open. So she looked at me. She said, "I'm going to buy you this for your birthday." And we walked up the stairs and knocked on the door, and there was a little peephole in the door, and you could see the light got blocked out, but they wouldn't open the door. And, it said it was open. And we knocked on the door again, and again, the light blocked out through the peephole and just never would answer the door. And I'm like, well, that sucks, And then it was a little while later, I was with a group of people, and we had gone up to some kind of it was an outdoor festival, arts and crafts, and they had a section of psychics and mediums in there. And me and another lady that were in the same group, we walked up to another table, and the woman looked up at me, and she looked at the girl, and she goes, "I'll read you, but I'm not reading you." And I was like, why? Okay, I get it, but at least tell me why. Because now I've had 2 experiences. The one wouldn't even open the door, and then this one's like, she wouldn't say anything. She just wouldn't tell me anything. And it wasn't until I started doing this show, and Karen Tatro from the East Coast, Christina Rake, the Archbishop from Chicago, and then J.J. Rose. I had readings with all 3 of them, and all 3 of them told me the same goddamn thing. It was amazing how there was one figure in particular that all three of them described, and I don't know, maybe this is one of the things that anybody who wants to be a psychic, they're like, okay, no matter who you talk to, no matter what you say, you always have to bring up this one person that looks like this and has blue eyes, and and then that's that way. I don't think that's the case, but they all describe the same figure, and I think I talked about it on your show, as far as it being a guardian angel, and it's bizarre. It's bizarre.
Especially when you have multiple people hammer that home, different people. There's got to be something there, man.
Yeah, and there were some very distinctive features about it, and there was music that accompanied this person as they came into the presence of the people that were reading them. And I just talked about this fairly recently, and somebody said, you realize that Lucifer's was, he had music, he exuded music, and I was like, well, that's not cool. I don't like that. But I don't think they would have recognized him as being a guardian angel if it was in fact the devil. So when did it kick in for you guys that you were going to, I guess, let me rephrase that. How did it kick in? Was it just, hey, man, it'd be really cool to sit down and talk to people about crazy stories? Or was it more of that you guys had experiences in your lives and you wanted to talk to people that didn't make you feel like they were rolling their eyes at you when you talked about your stuff too?
Well, it's interesting because me and Kyle both have always been into weird stuff since we were little, whether it's written Bigfoot books out of the library, Loch Ness Monster books, whatever, or if it's watching Unsolved Mysteries, watching the X-Files growing up, In Search of, all that. But whenever we started hanging out, no matter what we were doing, it would always end up in us talking about weird stuff. It just didn't matter. And it got to the point, like, he would come over to my apartment and we would stay up and we'd listen to Art Bell, listen to people call in, like how awesome is it to have a platform where people come to you to talk about weird stuff. And I used to be a merchandiser for Pepsi, and I'd be in the local Walmart stacking soda, and Kyle, without fail, Kyle would come in and we would stand there for like 3 hours just talking about weird shit nonstop. Finally, I think it was either Kyle's wife or Kyle kicked out the idea, and they're like, why don't you guys start a podcast? Why don't you, they're kind of taking off. Why don't you do a podcast? Get people to call in and talk about weird stuff. We kind of sat on the idea a little bit and kicked it around and kept talking about weird stuff between us. And then one day Kyle just pulled the trigger on it. He's like, hey, got us a mixer and some microphones. I guess we're going to do this. I'm like, all right, let's go. See what happens. And then it just kind of evolved from there. Like for the first while, it seemed like the only people that were listening was like Kyle's old lady and my mom, But then it started like compounding, and the community started building, and you had more people. You started recognizing names like on your Facebook and recognizing names in your Discord. And then it compounds again, and it just keeps stacking, and it's grown into this, it's its own beast at this point. And it's just basically because me and Kyle like to talk about weird shit.
Yeah.
We're looking for other people to talk about weird stuff with, I guess.
When did what was your break? Because, I mean, anybody that starts I take that back. Not anybody, but if you don't come from a background of already being on a show or having some sort of celebrity or personality in radio or something like that, to start a podcast, my first month, I had 30 listens, and 10 of those were probably me listening to myself, trying to critique, what can I do better? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? Should I have done this? Should I have done that? Family, my kids, and a couple of close friends that probably, when they pushed play, started rolling their eyes the minute I started talking. And it was an uphill battle for a year. I saw growth every month, which I still look back and, I'm like, I'm proud of that, because that was me. That was, whatever, whether it was Facebook or whether it was Instagram or whether it was, how good the show was, or, I saw steady growth, but it wasn't leaps and bounds. And it wasn't until, getting on the confessionals with Tony that I got out in front of a much larger audience, and a lot of them came to me and stayed, and that's, I told them, I said, that was a hell of a nice thing that you did, and I understand that was content for them, and I understand that whole thing, but I said, that was a huge solid, and I'm never going to be able to repay that to you. But I said, the thing I can do is I'll continue to pay that forward. When there's good people trying to do good things, and if I can help them in this genre, I'll do my best. And that's the best I can do, is just pay it forward to other people. What was your guys' break?
Same. Tony show.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yep. We actually, interestingly enough, we'll be starting our 4th year March 12th. We released our first episode March 12th, 2019.
Congratulations.
And to kind of compound on what you're saying, our first 2 years solid, and we probably didn't miss a 3 episodes a week. We had about 70,000 downloads total the first 2 years. Wow. Then we went on Tony's show, and we've had over 1.25 million downloads since being on his show. We just kind of resonated with some of his listeners, and like you said, they stuck around, and it just built onto itself.
Yeah.
And we kind of have the same stance as you. Like, we know we'll never be able to do that for Tony, because he's massive, Yeah. He's one of the big dogs in the paranormal media world right now. But we kind of hold the same thought pattern that you do. If we can help put people on, help get ears to people, like, there's 7 billion people in the world. There's enough listening to go around for everybody. So if you can put it out there and, help other people that are passionate about it out, that's the least we could do. But it was going, when we were messing around with the Egress Industries thing and we went on Tony's show, that experience just resonated with everyone, and people were all about it, and it just went leaps. Yeah. It's interesting because, we went on Tony's show, and coming off of Tony's show, we saw so much growth. But we also went, not too much long after that, we went on Sam Tripoli's show, which is massive. And it just did not connect with his audience at all. We didn't see very much growth at all. Wow. But for some reason, anytime we get together with Tony, even just when we went to the Dogman conference to go and hang out with him, he was just doing live podcast stuff. So we just sat in and just shot the shit. We didn't even talk about anything. Even just being on his show, his crowd just eats it up, man, and it just shoots us. He's got a very awesome listener base.
Yeah. And
I know that a lot of ours is carried over and kind of helped build the old Holo cult. So that was definitely what shot it off, was going on Tony's.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for our listener base, we never would have even been on Tony's show.
Yeah, that's true.
Because our listener base started spamming, emailing him. We didn't ask him to, nothing. Really? They just started hammering him, and that's what caught his attention. And then he messaged me on Instagram.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yep.
And again, that was good that you popped in there. I wasn't selling any of our OG listeners short, but as far as like actually going leaps and bounds, it was being on his show.
Isn't that cool to have that kind of, I guess you consider it a support group, you know, that is so earnestly behind you and what you're doing that they go out unasked, you know, unprompted to
putting in the legwork for you, man. And
incredible.
I mean, the same holds true for you. Like we had a man approach us at the Dogman Festival, and he's like, "If you listen to Uncomfortable," I'm like, "No, I don't think I have." He's like, "You gotta check this out. You gotta check this out, man." And wasn't too long after that, I started tuning into your show, and that's when I left the review on Apple. I'm like, "Man, we should link up."
Yeah,
I'm digging it.
He actually reached out to me. And he sent me a photograph at that conference where it was him, I believe both of you, and I think Tony was in the background.
Yep. I remember it.
Yeah. And he's like, just so you know, I'm not pulling your leg, you know, it was me. And I was like, I'll be damned, man. That was awesome of you to reach out and show me that. I appreciated that.
It's such a cool community. Like, I can't stress that enough. The people that I have met through this, and the listeners I've met, and the listeners we interact with, and the other hosts we interact with, like, everybody is so cool. Everybody's so down to earth and legit. Like, it's refreshing. You know, the world's so fucked up now anyway. To meet like genuinely good people that have good intentions is like, I needed that. I still do need that, you know? Yeah. So having this is just a breath of fresh air. It's so like I said, so much more fulfilling than I ever thought it would be. Whenever Kyle's like, "Hey, I bought a mixer and 2 microphones. Let's do this." I would never ever have thought that we would have this community of support surrounding us and meeting all so many cool people just across the board.
Well, and to tee off on that, like the other day, Tony had some downtime, and he's like, "Well, Kyle, why don't you give me a call?" And so I was like, "All right, whatever. I got some questions for you, anyways." So I call him. We're chatting it up a little bit, and we get to talking about listener bases and stuff. And once again, he reiterates on, because he did it first at the Dog Man, and Tony's blown away, which blows me away. It's a huge compliment for us, but he's just like, I can't wrap my brain around how culty your fan base is, because he's like, your fan base rides and dies for you guys. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, it's awesome, dude. Awesome. And he's like, it's so crazy, dude, because like your guys' Discord is annoying. He's like, I have to shut off all notifications on everything that I have because your Discord is always just catching fire. And I'm like, I know, like we groomed it into this like ecosystem where it just maintains itself now, because I'm so busy anymore with like editing and building things or doing whatever, researching family, all that stuff, that I'll try to jump back into Discord and start talking with people. But the conversation, like I always just look for I always just look for an opening, right? Like something where I can respond to somebody or do this. Like, I'm not the dude that just drops in and goes, "Hey guys, I'm here. Talk to me." You know, I always just try to like integrate myself in the conversation, but it moves so fast where I'm just like, gosh, this is so hard to keep up with. But it's great, you know, it's great. And like, I just am forever appreciative of everybody that, you know, has our back, because I think that low key, like in some of our recent experiences, I think they've kind of helped ward off some of the things that we've gone through because we asked them for help. And like our Discord is crazy, man. Like they're the sweetest people you'll ever meet. But if you come in there being dumb, they'll eat you alive.
Yeah,
they will. And they don't want to be that way. So don't think that like you're going to say something and offend people. Like you got to be absolutely ridiculous when you go in there, but they stand their ground, you know, and I appreciate that. And they ride and die for us. I mean, I could go in there right now and you name it. I could just go, hey, how do I make blueberry muffins? And I'd have like 10 people go, here's how you make blueberry muffins. Like it's awesome, man. It really is. It's amazing.
Well, you know, I just started my Discord, beginning of January. I think it was January 1st. So, you know, I'm at about 100 people right now, and that is shocked me. I'm surprised by that. You know, we've done a couple of Friday night just live chats, just not having anything going on, so I jump in a voice channel, and the night you guys popped in, I think we had like 24 people. 16 were in there for a good solid chunk, but there were some that came in and out. It's such a weird thing to be able to talk to people that you don't know, you haven't met in real person, that you're looking at an avatar and a little square that flashes every time they talk, and be able to have the connections that you do with those people. It's a I don't know. I don't know why it seems like that breaks barriers that maybe you know, in person you would not make that effort, or you would not take that time, or maybe on their end they wouldn't make the attempt to contact you or have a conversation with you. But it's amazing. It really is. I can't imagine, you know, it's like I said, it's coming up on just being 2 months old. I can't imagine what it's going to be like in a year.
Yeah, it's an awesome media platform to be able to connect with people, and just to let it, like, it just builds itself. Like it's awesome because it kind of even moderates itself. Like once you join in, everybody's like, oh, welcoming and everything, and they're like, there's only one rule. Like, you don't have to think what we think, just don't be a dick.
Yep.
And it's so surreal is really the only word I can put into it, you know, like having all these people, like you said, that you've never met, that you've never been around, that you've never interacted with, all kind of in this same space with different backgrounds, different thought processes, different beliefs, and they're all in there. They're all getting along. They don't have to agree, but they're getting along. And it's just, I keep using the word refreshing, but it is. Like, you go on any other media platforms like Facebook or any of that other trash, and it's just everybody at each other's throats. But then you go to the Discord,
it's horrible.
And it's so, you have so many different people from so many different walks of life just kicking it, you know, just being civil with one another. Like, the only rule that they have in the Discord is just don't be a dick.
Yep.
It's easy. If you can't handle that, you should probably go somewhere else, you know? Like,
yeah. And, you know, again, in the first month, I had the one that just couldn't manage it. Just couldn't play right, you know? And that was, I don't know. But out of all the rest of them, couldn't ask for anything better. It's an amazing experience. You know, and my kid tells me about it. He's always talking about Discord this, Discord that, you know, and he's a gamer, and all of his buddies are in one. And I was like, somebody suggested to me, you need to start a Discord. And I'm like, what the hell is a Discord? I'm 57 years old. You know, I'm into tech stuff. Don't get me wrong. I keep up on technology and stuff, but what the fuck is Discord? I have no idea. And then My son shows me the one that he's got with his buddies, and I was like, well, that's kind of cool. And I said, do it. Just start it. And, he's sitting on his phone, and in like 5 minutes, he says, all right, it's ready. And I'm like, that's it.
That's awesome.
And for the least amount of effort that it takes to put one of those together, the value that it has is amazing.
It is a great tool. It's such a great tool. And we've never even dabbled in the voice chat. Like I kept thinking about that when I was sitting in on your chat. Like I said, my phone's a piece of trash, so my microphone doesn't work. So I was just lurking, just listening.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's an awesome piece of tech to connect with people.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, I hope people don't get too used to me spending 3 hours in there, because at some point I'm not going to be able to. But, on a night when you don't have anything going on and you can sit there for 3 hours and shoot the shit about, I actually recorded a show that night, probably an hour worth of people talking about their experiences. And then we just, from one thing to the next. And awesome. Eventually it turned into, talking about East Palestine and the chemicals and, the weird shit in the sky and what we're shooting down but we can't find, and, all the other things that are going on in the world that seems to be making us look one way when my gut tells me we should be looking somewhere else, but I don't know where that is. And
it is very convenient that all the distractions happened like within the same week.
Yeah. And I don't even buy the, it's because they don't want you to look at the Epstein papers that were released, or they don't want you to look at this, or they don't want you to look at that. I don't think it's that. I think it's bigger. I think it's way bigger, and it's much deeper than those things.
If they didn't want us to see because they released the WikiLeaks too. Like, if they didn't want us to see this shit, we wouldn't be seeing it.
That's right.
We wouldn't see it. This is just talking points and distractions for everybody to not dig deeper. Yeah. Because they're all hot button issues: shooting down UFOs, the train environmental disaster, the flight list, the WikiLeaks. Like, they're all hot button talking points for everybody. And when you give people those things to brood on and to talk about, they just hyper focus on that. Yeah. And like you said, the real, I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's some real shit way beyond that.
My gut tells me it's much deeper than that, and it's much bigger. And
welcome to BreezeLine, where you'll say, ta-ta T-Mobile, because we've got more reliable home internet that's a whole lot faster. In fact, 10 times faster. No, seriously, because we have real internet backed by our fiber-powered network. And T-Mobile, well, they just have a 5G cellular network. So act now to get superior home internet. Find your perfect speed with prices starting at just $19.99 a month for 24 months. Terms and conditions apply. Go to breezeline.com to learn more.
Lowe's knows top outdoor power equipment, and now's the time to get your yard ready for spring with Ego Outdoor Power Equipment starting at $219. Experience the latest innovations in outdoor battery power from Ego, like Speed IQ technology that adapts mower speed to your stride. Get continuous non-stop trimming with the Line IQ string trimmer, and get added steering wheel precision with the E-Steer zero-turn mower. Shop Ego, the #1 rated brand in cordless outdoor power, only at Lowe's today.
I got a feeling we're going to find out what it is. And it's not going to be because of us. It's not going to be somebody just found it out. It's going to come out, and it's going to smack us right in the face. And that scares me. Because the one thing that I keep going back to is the tensions that are being created between Russia and China and us, and that's my biggest fear, because I don't think there's any coming back from that. The world will never be the same.
It just escalates a little bit more every day, too.
You know,
Just
what
keeps
was it?
Tiptoeing.
It was just not even a week ago that our jets flew within 500 feet of one of the Chinese jets, and you know, so all it's going to take is all it's going to take is one person that, you know, maybe he woke up with having a second bowl of Wheaties or what, and he's going to push back. You know, it could be something as simple as, you know, a pilot in one plane flipping a pilot off in the other plane, you know, close enough where you can see the finger pop up, and we're going to have an issue.
You ever read the novel Alas Babylon?
You know, I have. My doctor said that I have like late onset ADHD, and reading for me is horrible, because I'll read a page and I'll get halfway through it, and then I start thinking about, oh, I haven't talked to Bob for a while. I wonder what Bob's doing. Ah, shit, I forgot to write the grocery list. Man, did I pay the bills? You know, the next thing I know, I'm like, damn, I got to start back at the top again. And it's so much. I wish, man, I think of all the things that I could change in my life, if I could change to make myself just be a normal reader. You know, my kids enjoy reading. Everybody I know enjoys reading. And for me, it's just such a pain in the ass. So no, I haven't read it. And I feel bad about myself because I don't.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I had to read it in my honors English class, so that's why I read it. But it's about a nuclear war and the fallout afterwards. But it started, I can't remember the two countries, what the tensions were, but two fighter pilots were just dogging each other, and they just kept pushing. Finally, one of them launched a heat-seeking missile, missed the plane, hit a passenger train, killed hundreds of people, and that set it off. That was the catalyst that hit the red button, and that's what started everything. And you hear these tensions about them flying close to one another, and you're like, holy shit, man. It might be one of those things where you're looking back, like, did this book predict the end of the world? You know?
Yeah. It's scary.
It's a heavy time out here now.
Man, I was not expecting to jump into this and be so heavy. But I set the tone early, and we just have not been able to deviate from it. I'm sorry, guys.
It's good.
That was
we're here for it.
That was not my intent. Quickly, what do you guys think about the? Because when they start talking about shooting the stuff down out of the sky, you know, the balloon was a balloon. Obviously, we had pictures of it. We had pictures of the SEAL team pulling it out of the water. You know, we had pictures of the support vessel that was behind them. But, you know, then they splash 3 more. You would think by now there would be, and apparently there are videos, you know, whether they're cell phone videos, so whether or not they're real, who knows? But, you know, the thing that came back to me so quickly is, one was the initial verbiage that they were using on the news, talking about them being unidentified objects in the sky. You know, it's like all of a sudden now we're taking it serious. Now we're talking about literally unidentified objects in our sky getting shot down. And that was kind of mind-blowing for me. For, you know, 56 years of my life of them saying that this stuff isn't real. And then to expect us to believe that there's nothing that can be recovered. No recovery whatsoever. Doesn't make any sense at all. You know, now I'm not saying that what was in the sky was alien craft. But there was something there, you know. And then they come out with it could have been a hobbyist club, a balloon hobbyist club.
They always go back for the balloons, don't
you know?
they?
And then I'm like, then going like, you know, Roswell. It's like, so arguably the world power military back in 46 or 47 when the Roswell thing happened. And they immediately turn around and, flying saucer crash landed out in the desert. And then the next day, it's like, oh, nope, we made a mistake. It was just a weather balloon. The world power military out of all the world, the biggest, baddest military in the world, they made a mistake like that? Come on.
It's almost like they're ribbing us, man. Like, hey, we used this whole balloon thing 80 years ago. Let's see if we can do it again. Let's see if they'll buy it again.
We got 76 years out of it. Yeah. We can get another.
See if they'll buy it again. See if Johnny Q Public will just jump aboard that train. My question is, my brain goes a lot of different places here. With the actual balloon, the China balloon, the spy balloon, like that's concerning. That made it all the way across the country. Nobody did anything about it. And even if it was just taking surveillance, like the fact that they just let that happen is off the rails to me, because that thing could have been carrying any kind of payload.
Could have been a deployment balloon
at all. Could have been an EMP. Could have dropped that over a city. It could have been something bad. Could have had some sort of, like, I don't know, biological weapon in it or some shit.
Exactly.
And they just let it fly until it crossed the entire damn country. And they're like, you know what? I think we'll drop it now. And on the flip side of that, these other things. So you've been hearing like that this is not something new. Like they know that these things have been in our airspace. We've got military videos, the Tic Tacs and shit. What in the last week, or the week when they started engaging them, changed to where they decided to engage with these things and shoot them down? What changed that call is what I'm wondering. And the fact that they say they can't find anything is just horseshit, period.
Well, I would agree with that.
Pardon my French. But
I don't even know that I would bank too much on surveillance, because I recall listening to Rogan, and he had Mike Baker on, a CIA guy. And he was talking about the same path, and this is way unrelated because this episode came out way before the balloons, but the same rough path that the balloon followed. And in that part of the country, there's a lot of like ICBMs and stuff like that. Yeah. And he's like, the crazy thing is that a lot of the radio towers and stuff out there, all these communication devices are chock full. And they know they're chock full of China-made products, and they all have back doors so China can get into these systems and monitor communications and probably do a whole lot more with these back doors that they have in there. So
yeah, maybe, what if that thing was flying across doing a firmware update on all these towers?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it could have been anything, and I don't know. Steve brings up a great point. What changed where they were like, no, we're not going to shoot them down, but now all of a sudden they're gonna take them out.
3 of them in a week.
Yeah, they're just gonna hammer them. Because when I remember them reporting, and I don't remember which one it was they shot down, but they said they think they know where it came from. But they weren't gonna call it out, right? And I heard theories out there from more of a political podcast, maybe. I can't remember which one I was listening to, but they were like, well, they don't want to directly call out said country because then said country has to respond. It's kind of like putting them in the hot seat, so to speak. And so to alleviate tension, they were just going to like leave it on the back border. Like, we're not going to say where it's from. We might know where it's from, but we're not going to say. But then you look at China and Russia, they obviously have some interesting tech because apparently China is the first one with hypersonic missiles. Yeah. So that says they're advanced in some fields, like superior in some fields. I wouldn't doubt that we have them as well, but they're kind of parading it around like, hey, and then And then all of a sudden, Russia gets the tech. Now Russia's got hypersonic missiles. And they're saying those missiles are so fast that our missile defense systems
can't pick them up.
Wouldn't even stand a chance.
Yeah.
It's just, and I mean, just to kind of circle back, the verbiage that they used was so weird. Like, they had to know that it was going to fly off the charts when they started using terms like unidentifiable and object and just
no visible form of propulsion.
Yeah, that's a big one right there.
Like that shit that they put out, and I'm not saying, and then they released that the pilots that engaged the one over Alaska, that it was manipulating their radar.
Yeah.
Like fucking with their radar. Like what?
And then you have the
fact that they released that.
Then you have the senator
released that to the presses.
The senator that's having the interview where he walks away and he says, lock your doors tonight.
Yeah. What?
That makes you think some Red Dawn shit's about to go down.
Yeah. Senator Kennedy was like, the very last thing he said to the press was, just lock your doors tonight. Like, what? You're supposed to be out here, like, alleviating people's fears, not mongering people's fears. Like, I don't know. The verbiage was weird. The whole way they went about it was weird. The fact that they have no evidence of it happening outside of these pilot encounters is even more weird. Like, you're going to tell me, oh, it's too icy for us to retrieve the debris, this, that, and the other. I'm like, get out of here. Get out of here.
And I mean, if we've got our eyes on these things for so long, that these things did multiple flybys. That they've got them on radar. That they've got them on FLIR, forward-looking infrared. They've got pictures of it. They've got video of it. So even if there is, which I don't believe, no wreckage to recover, that it's there. They know what the hell it was. And I just, I don't like to be that guy that is like, oh, I don't trust the government, but God damn it, I don't trust the government. I don't.
Couldn't have said that better myself.
Period. The end.
Conspiracy theories, I think, are phenomenal. I love them. There's some that are so interesting that you can just really wrap your teeth around and, just dig in. But I don't ever talk about them on my show because if I'm wrong, with what I say, my thoughts on it are, and there's, this as well as I do, being in a position that we're in, somebody's going to hear that and they're going to be like, he's right, and then you start compiling these people that are listening to you and your opinion of it. And I don't have any information on that. It's just a gut feeling, and all it's doing is creating fear or creating misinformation, and it's not helping the matters. I enjoy listening to them, and they pose a lot of good questions, and, like Kennedy's assassination. 100%. That is a conspiracy theory.
Oh, yeah.
It's a conspiracy, not a theory. There was definitely something
conspiracy
not right
fact.
With that.
Yeah.
But these other ones, I don't have enough information that I could speak. I can speak intelligently, but I can't speak intelligently about it in a responsible way. That's why I won't discuss those on my show because I'm not helping matters.
We're kind of in the same boat. We usually shy away from like
certain ones.
Yeah, modern ones.
Certain ones.
We'll dive into some of the older ones,
Yeah, it's hard for me. It's hard for me because I love conspiracies. I really do. It's one of my favorite things ever.
They're such a hot button, like especially ones now are such
the couple
hot button topics. Like you can't even mention it without people just warring with each other,
Yeah,
so
and
away from those.
For a guy like me, that's sad because I don't play favorites to anybody's side. I hate putting myself in any type of box. I just look at it like almost like playing chess, right? Like it's a way for me to flex my brain and try to see the pattern and put puzzle pieces, because like it's funny to me. It's funny how people, they would call you a conspiracy theorist like it is, like it's degrading or something like that. But let's face it, like a conspiracy is simple, right? Everybody thinks a conspiracy is a mass overplay of the government, like this big charade or whatnot. But a conspiracy, it's just me and Steve sitting there and conspiring to do literally anything. That's a conspiracy, right? We're coming up with a plan to do something, and most of the time that's a nefarious thing, right? It's not, we're not conspiring to give the poor free meals, right? So it's just like, it doesn't take much for a conspiracy to have the elements to move forward. It's just because, and I think conspiracies are, to be 100% honest with you, I know this is going to sound terrible, but I feel like conspiracy, the idea behind a conspiracy, the motive behind the conspiracy is human nature, right? And what I mean by that is when you have people that have unlimited amounts of power, people are greedy, man. People always want more.
Yeah.
Like most people aren't happy with what they have. They always want more and more and more and more and more. And, not to dive too much into this or that, but like, if you have a business that makes $100,000 a year, and then because of whatever disaster, they make $5 million this year, do you think for a fucking second they're going to be okay with going back to the $100,000 a year or 1 million, whatever I said?
Right. Yeah.
No, they're going to do everything in their power to make $5 million again.
Yeah.
And I just feel like conspiracy always most of the time derives from human greed in almost every case.
Yeah. Can't argue with that.
We're at a weird point in human history, I think.
Yeah.
With media, we're all connected, and the facets of information is so blurred and gray across the board. You don't know if the information you're getting is true. You don't know if it's a lie. You don't know if it's fact. You don't know if it's false. But you have people that consume it and hold it as absolute fact, and people that will live and die and fight on those hills that the information that they found is the 100 only % truth, whether it be it or not. And that breeds a weird culture, man. It's a very volatile culture.
What I think a lot of people don't realize, I don't know how old you guys are. Like I said, I'm 57. I cannot remember in recent past, I cannot remember the last time I turned on some kind of a news program and heard actual journalism. It's everything that comes out is, you probably have the same thing with your local news. You don't have the weather anymore. Now it's Storm Team 16. They're always looking for that thing to ramp it up, to make it sound like, oh my God, this is something, and it's like, it's weather. Most days it's just weather, but it's got to be Storm Team, and it's got to be this, and that's
gotta get
just
them clicks, man.
That's just the weather, man. And the way things are presented to us, and even the anchors now, they have such a, there's like such a, I want to say desperation or a tone to them that everything that's coming out of their mouth is like earth shattering. It's revolutionary in whatever they're saying. You know, and, you know, I talked to somebody about, you know, body cams for the police departments. Body cams seem like a pretty good idea, right? Keeps everybody honest, keeps everybody safe. There's a good accurate record of what happens. But then you have something that goes sideways, right? You have this guy takes off and he gets chased down and killed in somebody's front yard. And it's on video. And, you know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we would have heard about this altercation where, you know, somebody ended up getting shot after running from the police. But now we've got it on video, like the same day. It's almost like these things were created to get those kind of impactful moments on TV so we can absorb it, so it can separate us and divide us even more quickly than ever before. Because now you're going to see a cop chasing a black guy, and he kills the bad guy who happens to be black, and it looks like that guy didn't stand a chance. He could have used a taser, but he didn't. He shot him in the back of the head. Now you got people that are team black guy who got killed. You got people who are team cop who support them, and all it's doing is just creating teams and just shoving a wedge between us, you know. And it seems like it's with every story you hear, it is creating, you know, it's like our political system. You know, I've never seen anything like how these people will die on a hill for these people that they want to be president. I've never seen that.
Yep. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you think the guy that's running in whatever political office, whatever political side that you have, if you think that dude, your guy, is not playing on the same team as the dude on the other side that you absolutely despise, you need to reevaluate and rethink and relearn as to how this system works.
Because as soon as the cameras are off and the door closes, they're high-fiving each other across that aisle that they're always talking about that nobody wants to cross.
Yep. You are sadly mistaken.
Man,
I think one is a political savior. There is no political savior.
No.
I'm sorry to break it to you.
No, I think my overall message for all this conversation is don't buy the hype.
And I think that's our biggest problem.
Oh, that goes across the board, man. Like, I've talked to a lot of different walks of life, man. And I'm a pretty simple person. I don't give a shit what you look like. I don't give a shit what you do. As long as you ain't hurting nobody and you're cool, I have no problem with you. So I've talked to a lot of different people, and I think the general consensus is if you peel yourself away from media and you peel away from the hype, I don't think it's as bad out there as what everybody says it is. I think people just get caught up in the day-to-day bullshit, like you was saying, about the news, and then it gets their emotions high, and then they walk out into the world with these stupid fucking lenses on that makes them think that their neighbor is an asshole because he's got blue sneakers on instead of red sneakers or whatever the fuck. And it's just, like you said, it's done on purpose. So we're always at each other's throats, when all reality, dude across the street doesn't give a shit either. And if we just all start to realize that like, it's okay for me to walk out of my house and be like, hey, what's up, buddy? It's all good.
And media's programmed us this way. You know what I mean? Like we, I don't know if it's just a strictly American thing or if it's across the world, but we have been programmed to eat tragedy and disaster like snacks. As soon as they put it out, we're on it.
Yeah.
We're on it. I mean, just in my lifetime alone, I watched them kill and burn Waco to the ground. I watched the Columbine massacre take place. I watched planes hitting the World Trade Center in my sophomore study hall. You got Sandy Hook, you got Parkland, like all of these things were virtually live streamed to us via media outlets. Like, we were programmed to just consume these traumatic events over and over and over and over again. Like, as soon as you see it, it's like, oh, better click on this, see what the fuck's happening today, you know? And it just breeds fear. It breeds dissonance. It breeds disconnect. And it's just a catalyst for us as a whole to just be against everybody else. It's just it's exhausting.
And then you introduce a platform like Facebook that turns into
everybody.
That turns into this incredible thing that people find their voice, and then they think that their voice is worth hearing. So they start spewing their rhetoric, and you have these people who become warriors behind these keyboards. You know, when you see them in person, if you were walking down an alley and they saw you, they'd turn around and they'd run crying like a little girl. But behind a keyboard, you know, they say some heinous shit. And I think, like, with the development of things like, you know, MySpace and then Facebook and these other social media outlets where people can just throw their 2 cents out there, whether they're educated or not, whether they're right or wrong, and people buy into it and they read it and they start, you know, it's like, oh, you know what, I'm going to get my 2 cents in. And all that's doing is creating an entire generations now of people who think that what they have to say, whether they're educated or not, whether they've looked into anything or not, you know, that they can say whatever the hell they want, and then they can dip, and there's no repercussions. It's training us to be a completely different type of culture than we've ever been in the past.
Yeah, there's no reprimands for your actions, you know, and especially on a platform like that, like, you get people who find this soapbox, who start shooting off about this or that, and then all they do is surround themselves with people who think exactly like them.
Yeah.
They just sit on it, and they just build each other up, and they're like, I got 1,500 people that agree with me here on Facebook, like, what I say matters. It doesn't. This was 20 years ago. You wouldn't be saying this shit at the bar because you get your head busted open.
Yep.
That'd be it.
Yeah.
There is no alternative, you know. But you got, like you said, you got media anonymity, and everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got to put it out there. Everybody's got to talk about this, talk about that, and it's just
the question is though, does it revert back to what we were talking about a minute ago? Are the majority of people who are indifferent, like most of us, just quiet, and then these other ones are, you know, because they always say it's the loud ones who are actually
making
the few.
the most noise. Yeah.
Right. But they're just making more noise than the rest of us, because the rest of us are indifferent. The rest of us look at a school shooting and go, oh, my Lord, like, my heart goes out to everybody involved, prayers, thoughts, you know. We don't have to get on there and immediately start rhetoric in either direction. You know, a lot of us we feel the pain, especially all three of us here have children.
Yeah.
You know, we can easily put ourselves in those shoes and be like, oh my, that is a tragedy. It's sad. Like, I had a neighbor down the street recently pass away, and my heart breaks for him, you know. Like, it's just, I think a lot of people are good people. It's just, you have people out there that just push these lines. I mean, it's a tough spot to be in, right? Because they're entitled to say what they need to say. You know, the freedom of speech is important because it allows us to do what we're doing right now. The beauty, I think for me personally, the beauty in all of it is what I'm not educating anyone, but I'm going to go ahead and educate people, is something called block, or my personal preference, delete and never install. I don't do social media. The only one I've ever done is Instagram, and that's just because it's pictures. And if anybody on my feed brings any type of drama, delete, goodbye. Like I go there for cool stuff. I don't want drama. I don't want it in my life. I just, because like you both are pointing out, the more you consume that virtual damn near propaganda, the more sour you become as an individual, because you start to view the world through these lenses that just poison everything about you. You know, you look at your neighbor in spite. You worry about going over here, and like it just it poisons your essence, man. You just start to become this bitter, hateful person. It's like a facade of who you used to be. Like I think we all just need to get back to just being human, man. Yeah, just like.
Well, that
like,
makes
and you hear all these different people barking like this, that, and the other, and it's like, I don't know about you, Eric, or you, Steve. I'm sure you guys were raised the exact same way I was. You was taught there's a right way and there's a wrong way.
Yeah,
and that was instilled in me, man. And I have if I
Very
know,
early.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, we grew up being honest people, because if we weren't honest, it was a hell of a lot worse on us. Right?
You learned to be honest.
That's what I'm saying. You were honest. So, and that's how I've lived my life. Like I can't not be honest. I like being a good person. It feels good to be a good person, to do nice things for people. Like and Steve saved me one day. You know, we was at the convention speaking, and there was one lady who was just chewing me up and spitting me the fuck out. And it just rattled me. It shook me. And Steve was like, dude, you need to ask yourself, what the fuck kind of life is that person having? Like, what are they going through? Because you know they're going through shit if they're ridiculing you over stuff this petty. Like, their life sucks. At the end of the day, their life sucks.
Yeah.
And that hits you. You're like, holy shit. It does make sense, because if 90% of the time when somebody's having a shitty day or they're in a terrible mood, they have this way of just spitting venom in every direction, making everybody feel their pain. And the opposite can be said about people who are happy. They do the same thing. They spread the happiness, you know? Mm-hmm. So I don't know, man. I'm tired of bitter people in the world. Yeah. I really am.
That makes me want to circle back to what you said when you said, I don't think it's as bad as what we're led to believe out there. And the reason I'm going to agree with you on that is, you know, most people, they wake up, they have breakfast, they talk to their wife, they pat their kids on the head, they go to work, and they see a finite number of people throughout their day. And those people are typically people that they see 5 days a week, maybe 6 days a week. And they're the same personalities, and they're either in flux with them or they're out of flux with them. And I think the unique thing that we have, the three of us sitting here, is we get to talk to a bunch of different people that we don't have a lot of time with, that we don't get used to, that we don't form opinions of because of the way they dress, because of the way that they carry themselves, or, you know, how they got a weird haircut, or they don't shave, or, you know, we get to have an experience with those people's true selves. Because I firmly believe that when somebody comes on shows like ours and they tell their story, whether their story is 100% true, there's something behind them having to tell that story. And I've had one show in particular that it's wild, dude. You got to wrap your head around a lot of shit to believe this. But it became really apparent to me that person, the only way they could say that what happened to them in their life was to create this outrageous story for their brain to be able to deal with it. And then for them to come on a show and tell that story was basically letting everybody know that X, Y, and Z happened to me when I was a kid. And I'm too proud. I can't say it. You know, I'm afraid what people will think of me if I tell them the truth. And, you know, I decided to air that episode knowing in my heart that I don't think his story was true, but that was his way of crying out, you know. And if in his mind it helped him by being able to tell that story to deal with the things that happened to him when he was a kid, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
You probably gave him more closure than you think. Maybe not total closure, probably not, but just giving him an outlet to put it out in a way that he felt comfortable with is something special.
Yeah. This has been a deep one, man.
I didn't expect it to go this route.
I did not either. But I guess maybe, I mean, everything happens for a reason. I guess it was... Let's get weird again, though. Let's circle back, and you were going to touch on some things that have happened recently.
Oh yeah.
And then let's end with our friend Egris.
So, I don't know what sparked it, because here probably last year, Kyle.
Yeah,
just about. We were doing, like you said before, we went into Cemetery X, which is Illinois hotspot that was kind of kept off the radar by paranormal investigators and stuff, just to keep people out because of whatever was going on there. We got a buddy, Ghost Hunter Dave, and he said it's one of the most active places he's ever been in. He says this quote, and I quote him all the time, but it's in regards to Cemetery X. He says, "You can go and look for ghosts all you want, but don't fuck with the devil, because the devil will follow you home." And that was in regards to whatever this entity is in Cemetery X. So much so that he would not tell me the location of Cemetery X, but I'm resilient and I am good at looking things up. And I found it. And me and Kyle decided to go out there one day. We didn't go out in the night. We just were going to go out, just kind of feel it out, just to see what was going on. So we get there, and I send a picture to Ghost Hunter Dave. And he goes, "Why in the fuck are you there?" And I'm like, "Just here to check it out, man. Just chill." And he's like, "I'm not kidding when I tell you that whatever's there will follow you if you're not ready for it." And I'm just kind of like, he's just hyping this whole thing up. So me and Kyle are kind of walking around the cemetery, you know, just kind of making a lap. And we get to this section. I mean, I don't know the cemetery from anything else, but you could tell the headstones were older. We were looking at some of the symbolism on the headstones and stuff. And we get to this section, and it's like the atmosphere just dropped out. Just my heart rate kind of started speeding up, and like it's weird, man. I could like feel like heat building up in my ears and stuff. And I'm like, man, I'm getting in my own head about this. Ghost Hunter Dave's texting me. I'm just getting in there. And about that time, Kyle's like, "You starting to feel weird?" I'm like, "Yeah, dog. I'm feeling strange." But that being said, we were also looking into some other cases. We were diving deep into the Bledsoe encounter. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but there's a whole UFO abduction that gets tied into spirituality, and it's not not my story to dive into, but my personal opinion on the matter, there's a lot of deception going on with whatever these entities are that are interacting with the Bledsoes. But anyway, the more we looked into that, things started heating up. My youngest boy, Maddox, who was the one that had the weird encounters when he was young, hasn't said a thing about any kind of thing going on here at the house until this last year. He had told my mom that he saw a shadow man look through his bedroom door. He woke up one night and there was a shadow man looking through his door. He didn't tell me about it because I don't think he wanted to like, I don't know, put me in defense mode maybe, but he told my mom, and my mom pulled me aside later on and told me, well, Kyle, I don't like to put these things to Kyle because I feel like, I don't know, he's got little kids that are home and stuff, and he handles it differently than I do. So I don't want to be like, man, all this weird shit's going on at my house, because I'm almost half worried that it's like gonna kind of trek to his place too. So I just kept it under wraps. And then Kyle messages me, the same week.
Yeah, it was like 2 days later.
Yeah. He had something similar.
Yeah, my son told my wife that he saw someone standing in the doorway.
Oh, shit.
And so I told Steve about it, and that's when Steve told me about his kid. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Right? That's weird. And then it so much so that every night it scared my kid. Like he was having a hard time going to sleep. And so I went in there. I was just kind of fed up with the bullshit, It kind of made me mad. So I go in there, and I'd heard my kid talk about God before. I don't push anything on my children, in regards to that. But it's something that I could relate to. I could tee off on it a little bit. And so I asked him, I said, you ever hear of his son, Jesus? And he's like, no. So I talked to him a little bit about it. And I'm like, listen, man, I want to tell you something. If you ever see anything like that again, you do one of two things, okay? Don't be afraid. Try not to be afraid. I know it's scary, but try not to be. And either call out to Jesus to help you, or you tell that thing to basically fuck off. In Jesus' name, I rebuke you. You leave. I'm like, where you yell for dad, and dad's going to come deal with it. And whenever I said that, my body started feeling weird. I got these full body, like electric chills, right? And I'm like, well, that's weird. And it kind of made me smile. And I just took it as a positive thing. It weirded me out a little bit. So 2 people I wanted to talk to, because it's double-edged. It's one edge and then the other edge. Steve and Tony. Everybody knows Tony leans hard into religion, right?
Right.
So I get his opinion. He tells me, he's like, Kyle, I honestly think the Holy Ghost answered you. I think it answered you. You called out and it answered. And, it's there to help. And even Steve was kind of like, I don't know, bro, like that's weird, right? And so it shocks me. It always shocks me a little bit harder when Steve is kind of on the fence about something, where he's like, dude, I don't know, that's weird. And then the next night I talked to my son again. This time, the bedroom, I could feel, how like when you feel somebody walk into the room, you feel their energy. I felt that energy, and I looked back and the bedroom door's closing to his room. And that's when I got pissed. And I'm like, all right, motherfucker. I sat there and I'm like, in the name of Jesus Christ, I rebuke you. You leave here now. We're done with this. And all is kind of well. Still kind of wonky past couple of days. My boy's kind of iffy about going to sleep yet. And it's bizarre, man. So I go to Walmart with my family to get groceries, and we're in the checkout, and there's a lady across from us at the other checkout, and she's an older lady, She spins around, and this is on Sunday, so she very well could have just gotten out of church. She spins around, and she looks at me and my family, and she's like, you have an amazing family. They're so beautiful. And I'm like, well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And she's like, I mean that. Like, you guys are special. I was like, well, thank you. And she reaches in her pocket, and she pulls out 4, they're like rosary rings. And she's like, here's one for you and your family. And I'm like, well, that's pretty ironic timing.
Yeah.
Right? So I take
walk
him
around with a pocket full of.
Yeah. Very, very ironic timing. So when we go home, I take one of those rosary rings and I put one underneath my son's pillow. Didn't tell him about it because I didn't want him to play with it. I just slid it underneath his pillow, and he never had a problem after that at all. But the fun was far from over, because it went after my son. And then my wife had this really bizarre dream. And to me, it almost sounded like she possibly encountered what would be a succubus, because it was a very perverse dream. It involved my 2-year-old daughter. But prior to that part, there was another woman in our bed in this dream. And, of course, I'm excited about it. I'm like, whoa. And my wife kept telling me, she's not what you think she is. She's not what you think she is. And then later on in the dream, it turns into my 2-year-old daughter climbing up the bed and trying to like forcefully kiss my wife. And then my wife wakes up. And I'm like, that's weird. Sometimes I do what everybody would do. You just kind of chalk that up as a dream. You're like, that's just a scary dream. Well, it got a little more real whenever I texted Steve about it, because Steve had an experience.
Yeah, so to set a couple things off here, I never dream. When I do, I don't remember it. I can only have a handful that I even recall. On top of that point, I do suffer from sleep paralysis. Not very often, maybe once every couple years. And it's not like old hag syndrome or any of that stuff. I just I guess run of the mill for what you could say sleep paralysis. I can't move. I'm aware that I'm awake, and I get this overwhelming sense of dread. Like the most terrified I have ever been in my life happens when I'm in this state of sleep paralysis. But I've kind of got to the point where I can wake myself up. Like I'll notice it and I'm like, come on, wake up, wake up, wake up. I never hear anything. I never see anything out of the ordinary, but like the feeling is there's something inside my house that wants to harm me. And I'm paralyzed, so I can't do anything about it, but I never had seen anything or this or that. So I'm laying in bed with my girlfriend, and I'm going to assume this was a dream. I'm facing away from the door. She's facing the door. We're facing each other. And she goes, "Do you see him?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "Do you see who's in the doorway?" And as I roll over to look through the doorway, our bedroom kind of leads into this little foyer that leads into our kitchen. We always leave the kitchen light on over the sink for the cat and the dog and shit. So it kind of casts light into the bedroom just a little bit. As I roll over, I see this massive humanoid figure. And it's all blacked out, but you can see a head and you can see a shoulder. And it's so big that it has to lean down to look through the doorway. And as soon as I see it, as soon as my eyes make contact with whatever this is, paralysis kicks in. Boom. And I'm laying there and I'm looking at this thing peeking through the door. I'm like, what in the fuck is going on? So at that point, I'm trying to wake myself up. I'm like, come on, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. And I watch him pull himself through the door. And about that time, I snap out of it. So I jump up out of bed. And as I'm moving into like the kitchen, he's always moving out of a room as I'm moving in. As I'm moving in, he's moving out. As I'm moving in, he's moving out.
Step
I
ahead,
finally
yeah.
see him go. I finally see him go into the bedroom, back into where I was sleeping. And as I go in there, I can't see him. And I see Sarah's sitting there. She's like, I think he went into the recording room. I'm like, all right, I got him. And she's like, you need to be careful. He keeps changing his name. He keeps changing his name. And then I woke up. So I didn't tell Kyle about this. He texted me about the shit that his wife was experiencing. And we narrowed down the timeline that those two things happened on the exact same night.
Oh, shit.
And as we're sitting there and we're going through whatever this is that's messing with us, I'm like putting it together. It's almost like it's coming after us at our most vulnerable spots. Like at first it comes after our kids. It's fucking with Maddox. It's fucking with Kyle's son. And we kind of squash that. Then it comes after me in my sleep paralysis, which is the most terrifying thing that I've ever experienced. On the flip side of that, it comes after Kyle and his wife in a time of intimacy. And then it also morphs back into Kyle's other kid. Like whatever this thing is just honing in on these times that we're so vulnerable. And it just got so fucking weird. Then we had people reach out to us, multiple people, one from the UK. I won't go into details. They just let us know. They're like, I just want you to know that I feel like you guys have something bad attached to you. They said, don't just be aware of that. You need to see someone to try to get whatever this thing is cleaned up. Then we had other people reach out saying that like, we're getting bad vibes, guys. Like it feels like something bad's going to happen to one of you. And I mean, we really
I started
didn't.
going through a bunch of health issues too.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
All these weird like coincidences. Like I totaled my car out right off the rip. Then Kyle started getting sick, and it was just one thing after another, just boom, 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 boom. After these things happened, and it was such weird timing, and the fact that everything was lining up was so bizarre. But it kind of toned itself down. Like we vaguely retch out in the Discord, and we're like, if anybody wants to send us some like positive vibes this way, it sounds like we could probably use them. And it kind of righted itself, I hope.
Yeah, it's been tapered off for a hot minute. You know, I got everything back under control, but man, like whatever happened to me health wise was probably the most bizarre shit I've ever been through. Like I would go through bouts of extreme lightheadedness. Like I'd almost feel like I'm that feeling right before you're about to be hammered drunk. That's how I'd feel all day. And then my blood pressure was all over the fucking place. I'm talking there'd be nights where it would, for no reason, it would just be banging like 174 over 104. Just out of nowhere. Just start hammering hard.
Jesus.
And I'd almost feel like I'm getting ready to pass out. I mean, it was terrifying. And now everything's leveled back out. But I don't know what happened, you know, and it was kind of funny because we got told, don't talk about whatever is attached to you because you're just going to give it power. And I can remember one day talking about it, and Steve's like, hey, we're not supposed to talk about it. And I'm like, yeah, but you know, I feel like we should ask the Discord for help and all of our listeners for help. And Steve's like, fuck it, let's do it. We just threw the Hail Mary out there, you know, and that's just kind of like our MO. Like if one of us ventures off into the gates of hell, one of the other one's got to go. We just can't let your buddy go. So you just go with it, you know, and it seems that it's panned out for us. You know, I have had a few things come back. Now, I want to say prior to all this nonsense, I started I can't, and if you go to it's, I don't even remember the episodes or anything like that, but you'll hear me reference hearing a woman's voice when I sleep. It'll wake me up out of a sleep every time. Boom. Because I'll just hear her go, Kyle. And I hear it clear as day in my ears. And it'll wake me up and I freak out for a little bit and then I go back to sleep. Well, accompanied to this, we have a couple of decor vases on our dresser. And my wife started noticing it first, but she'd hear it ting, 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 like somebody was dropping something in the vase. And one day she investigated it, and there is a little hard as a rock, like black bean inside that vase. I have no idea how it got there, but every once in a while, you'll hear it go ding, 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 ding. Like something drops it in there. And I've tried, like I've stomped my feet past I've tried debunking it as many ways as I possibly can. Well, once I went on this like spiritual journey, if you will, like rebuking things, and I'm not big, like I said, I'm not big on boxes. So at night, once in a while, I'll lay there in bed and I would just go, I'm thankful, or thank you for protecting my children. Thank you for my health. Like I just give thanks to whatever's listening, you know, whatever. You can call it God, you can call it Jesus, you can call it whatever.
Sure.
But whatever positive entity, you know, I'm just saying thank you for my health, for my family, for my safety, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Ever since I've done that, I have never heard the woman's voice again. It's gone. And the bean it'll go through these where it subsides for a very long time. Like I haven't heard it forever until last night, actually, whenever me, my wife, and my 3-year-old heard it. Because my 3-year-old even goes, what was that? What was that noise? And my wife goes, you heard that? She goes, yeah, what was it? And so I'm like, and me, at this point, me and my wife just laugh, you know, because we don't know what it is. We don't know what's causing it. I don't know.
Is the bean still there? I thought the bean was gone.
I don't know. Yeah, my wife did check it one day. But here's the thing, too. There are 2 vases, so she might have checked the wrong one. I need to check it out.
Okay.
And see if if it's in there, because she thought the bean was gone.
I got you.
So that's a good point. I forgot about that. I need to empty out what those vases, because it's in the tall one. I know it's in the tall one. So I don't know.
Because the last time we talked about the bean, you're like, yeah, I haven't heard it for a while. I think Shauna got rid of it. So I'm like,
yeah,
damn, did this thing come back?
I don't know. I don't know, man. It's weird. Like I said, I've tried debunking it, man. I don't know what it is. You know, for all I know, it could be Ernie hanging out. It could be her dad hanging out. You know, it's both very protective people.
Yeah.
And like when I do my part, you know, I will say, because every once in a while to this day, I'll still do it. I'll just be like, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke you. You need to leave. You need to go where Jesus tells you. Any and all negative energy, leave my house. Right? So maybe whatever's hanging out now is not negative. I hope it is either her dad or my brother Ernie.
Well, that's strange.
It's weird, man.
That is weird.
And like I feel like I'm sure Steve,
circumstances between the two of you, and
yeah, I feel like Steve probably feels the same way. If you feel crazy sitting here explaining it all, like you just,
yeah.
There's been a number of times where I feel like a lunatic for some of the things, like when, you know, I mean, I told you guys a lot of it, you know, when I was on your show, and when you just sit there and you let it all out and you talk about it, it's like I'm crazy as a fucking loon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
it is weird verbally putting it all out there, and then like, especially when we started connecting the dots, you're like, am I connecting dots that aren't really there? Like, just to like kind of justify the weirdness that I'm going through, or I don't know, man, but it was a bizarre time.
Let's wrap up with what I think is a strange series of circumstances as well. And that is that I know of your podcast. I've listened to several episodes since we've, made each other's acquaintances. But up until prior to that, I had only listened to a couple of episodes. And it was on the Egress storyline. And I was floored. I think I told you this before. There's a series called Hellier. And that show sucked me in so hard that I was like, if this is real, this is freaking amazing. If this is not, if this is just a well-produced story, whoever wrote the script, whoever came up with the little idiosyncrasies, the weird little things that seem to mean nothing, but then as the show progresses, they become more and more important. And, whoever wrote that ought to have, get whatever awards are out there available to, for putting that together. And I felt the same way when I heard, that's the way I felt about the Egress story. I was like, man, this is so different than anything I've ever heard, and so weird. And, if this is real, this is some shocking shit. And if it's not, I don't care. These guys need to get, they need to be picked up by some film company and just. So that was my only experience with you guys. And then you leave a review for me on Apple Podcast. And I reach out to a friend of mine because I know that person listens to you. And I was like, holy shit, Holos guy left me a freaking rating or a review on Apple. And it was a great review. So they were super excited about it. And then this guy comes out of nowhere. And on your show, I referred to him as Dude. And, after the Nephilim Portal Babies episode that I had with Tony, which is another weird coincidence and I never really put together because you've had a connection with Tony, I've had a connection with Tony, and then this guy, Dude, finds me and, because of an episode that we did with Tony, and has got information that they picked me to tell you about this information. And it could have been, you guys have been doing this for how long? 4 years? It could have been about any episode, but it winds up being about Egress. It's very strange to me that how this weaves. I had nothing to do with you guys. I had nothing to do with Dude. You had nothing to do with me. And then this guy shows up at the Dogman conference and tells you to listen to me. And then all of a sudden I find out this guy's got information to give to you. It could have been any episode. Man. It could have been any one of your shows, but no, it has to be Egress. And that's the only show of yours that I had listened to.
In Hellier speak, synchronicities are abound, man.
It's just so strange.
Yeah, because I never really thought about it, how it all played out, how our interactions, how we cross paths until like you actually sit down and think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if we would have chose not to go to the Dogman conference, which also is tied to Tony was a speaker there, we would never have met the guy who's like, because I mean, within the first within the first probably 5 minutes of talking to this guy, he's like, "You listen to Uncomfortable podcast?" And I'm like, "No, let's talk about it." You know, he's got his phone out. He's like, "You need to listen to this episode. You need to listen to this witch episode and this, that." I'm like, "All right. If there's fans that are this passionate about it, it's definitely worth checking out, you know?" So like I said, I got to listen and I'm like, man, good content, good audio quality. We need to link up, you know, let's talk about some shit. And little did I know, there was also forces beyond my comprehension, also kind of pushing you toward us as we were getting pushed toward you. And
as you're saying that, dude, I'm getting the chills. You know, I mean, this isn't something spooky or anything, but I got the chills all over, and it's because it's just so damn weird.
It is. I mean, that's the only way to put it. It's weird.
It is weird.
It's almost like you almost have to start lending credence to the fact that we're all at this point for a reason. You know, I don't know what it is. I may not ever know what it is, but we're at this exact forces beyond our comprehension.
Yeah.
We're put into play to bring us here. Now I feel like it's on us to figure out why. What brought us to this point? What purpose is it that we are all now, all of our paths have crossed and are intermingled? Where do we go from here?
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I am involved peripherally, but I'm involved. You know, I just had my 2-year anniversary of the show.
Congratulations.
February 14th. Thank you. So I've only been doing this 2 years. You guys been doing it. You're coming up on 4. Tony's been doing it for over 6. I'm small potatoes. You know, you guys are big fish in a pretty good sized pond, and Tony's, you know, got the fin break in the water swimming around all of us, right?
Right.
And I look at myself and I'm like, how did I get here? You know, how did I get here? Because I'm not where you guys are. I'm not where Tony is. Probably never will be. And inside of 2 years, I'm like, why me? Why any of us? You know, I mean, in the big picture, not taking anything away from you or the size of your show or your fan base, in the big picture, none of us are Rogan.
Oh, no.
You know?
No.
Why are we being pushed together? You know, I felt pushed together with Tony to do that big 4-hour marathon that we did. You know, that there was something acting on that. And I feel the same with you guys, that something was acting towards. It just doesn't make any sense to me. The only episodes I ever listened to was the first one about egress, and then I listened to another one where you were talking to another guy who was getting calls or text messages on his phone. And then I might have sought out one more episode, but it was still related to egress, because I was like,
in a weird,
man, I want to know where the story goes, you know?
And in another weird synchronicity, we got linked up with that other podcaster, the original one on the egress whole take, almost the same way. Like I'd found the flyers on Reddit. Someone had found it and posted it, and I was just going to do an episode on it. I was going to do all these dream flyers and whatever, and egress was just happened to be one of them. So we posted. You know, nothing really comes of it outside. We're getting interactions with the egress number, like texting us and stuff, but we didn't go out on a limb to make another episode or anything. We just kind of interacted with it and kept it under our vest, you know. And then I get a message on Reddit pointing me to this other podcaster who was also interacting with whatever entity's behind Egress, and at the same time, he got a message pointing him to us. The whole thing is it's such a weird web that whatever this entity spun, and it's just left us all hung up in it, man.
This all kind of reminds me of M. Night Shyamalan, the guy who makes movies, made Signs.
Wouldn't that be a kicker if he's behind it?
You know, he
the plot twist master.
His movies are either hit or miss with me. They're either really, really good or, man, they just stink. And the one movie that this all reminds me of kind of stinks. And I think it was the Lady in the Water.
Oh, man, I forgot about that one.
But when you look at it from just what it is, it wasn't a great movie. But you had that apartment complex where you had all the different really kind of out there people. You had the one dude who only lifted weights with one arm. So he was like normal looking, but his one arm was super buff, you know, and you had these other characters and it's like none of this shit makes sense, right? But at the end of the story, in order for the resolution of the story to take place, each one of those weird, iconic looking people with their own little idiosyncrasy that made them who they were, all had a part in getting to the end of the movie. None of it could have happened without them. And I have been feeling that way since my trip down to Tennessee, is that all these people are going to play a part in some way in whatever is coming. And I don't understand it. I have no clue.
I kind of feel the same way, man. Like I said, Egress was the catalyst that led us toward Tony. Egress was the story that our listeners pushed and ran with. Like, you need to hear this, and then he reached out to us, and then now all these other paths are crossing. And even though Egress is essentially out of the picture at this point because they just dipped out, just ghosted out, it's still like in the background, almost like pulling some strings and kind of keep pushing people in different directions and keep moving paths and shit. It's weird. It's weird. It will forever be the unicorn that I'm chasing, the dragon that I'm chasing.
The white whale.
Yeah, if I could have one. If somebody came to me right now and said you can have one answer to any question you want, paranormal world, conspiracy world, whatever, what have you, I would probably be like, I would want to know who's behind Egress Industries. And if it's any answer that it could give me, I would be okay with. If it was some dude in the basement putting an ARG together, kudos to you, bud. You got me. Yeah. You pulled one over on me. You weaved the wonderful web that I was part of. If it's an unnamed government agency, I'll be right in there with them and be like, here I am, boys. What did you want me for? Let's do it. If somebody texts me right now and gave me coordinates, I say it every time. If that number popped up on my phone and gave me coordinates, I'd be driving there right now. Just give me answers, man. Just give me fucking answers.
Kyle, you feel the same way?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. At this point, yeah, I'd want to know. Because it has been, like Steve said, it's a huge part.
It changed our path.
Yeah.
It changed our course.
Yeah, it did. It's one of the reasons why we're here where we are.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said way earlier in the show, like the universe lines, you know, it guides you down the path if you pay attention enough. You know, I believe that. I believe that, like Steve said, the forces beyond our comprehension, they're always listening. They're always putting their 2 cents in, so to speak. Like, you just got to pay attention.
It's like a chess game.
Yeah.
Moving your pieces.
I agree.
It's a weird world we're living in, man.
It is indeed.
Yep.
Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for hanging out with me tonight. I apologize again. I think I set the tone very early and did not realize that it was gonna be a darker episode. I don't think any of us were really intending to go down the roads we did, but it was a good conversation nonetheless.
Absolutely.
And I was going to touch on that a little bit. I think it's why we kind of steer clear of some of the heavier things, because I feel like we kind of give people a break from that. They can get all the heavy shit they want on Facebook, on wherever they're at. They can come to Hollow Sky and talk about fucking aliens and big feet and whoever's behind the Kennedy assassination. We don't have to dwell on current everyday life, man.
But I guess that's a good way of saying that that's what we provide is that escape.
100%.
Without being disingenuous.
Yep.
You know, it's an escape into a part of reality that many of us don't venture into often.
Agreed. Absolutely.
I guess that's a good way to end it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And it's, I'm honored to be that person for people.
Same.
As well am I. Gentlemen, before we head out, let everybody know where they can get a hold of you. Let them know if you've got anything neat coming up, any big plans, any appearances, anything like that.
Again, you can check us out pretty much on all podcast platforms, all social medias. Just search up the Hollow Sky Podcast. We will be there. You can join us every Wednesday night on YouTube. We do a live show called The Night Shift at 8 p.m. Central. Come over. We have a phone line. You can live call in. It's just like kind of got that like I'm not walking in our shoes or anything, but it's kind of that coast to coast vibe. You call in. We talk about your weird experiences. As far as any kind of live stuff we got going on, I don't think so right off the rip. Nothing planned, but we'll see what the summer holds once we kind of get our schedules straight and whatnot. But yeah, just wherever you listen to weird shit, search us up. You'll find us.
Definitely give them a listen. Give them some love. You guys need to get me your Discord. I'd like to pop in there and become a part of that. Thank you, Kyle, Steve, Hollow Sky. Thank you to the Hollow Cult, who has shown me a great degree of love when I've popped in your live chats. You got a lot of good people, and you two are as well. Very good people.
You're one of us, Eric.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. That makes me happy. All right, gentlemen. Until next time, I'm sure we'll talk again.
Thank you so much for having us on and giving us a chance to chat.
Thank you. Good night, guys.
Good night.
All right, my friends, that's it for tonight's show. I hope you've enjoyed hearing from Kyle and Steve, the hosts of the very popular Hollow Sky podcast. I'm thankful that our orbits have crossed, and I'm looking forward to future projects with them and their fantastic community. Please, head over, give them some love. Let them know how great the uNcomfortable community is as well. And please make sure you share the show. Share it with your friends, family, coworkers, on your social media, or perhaps you picked up some merchandise from our store. Just wear the shirt, and if somebody asks what's uNcomfortable, tell them where to find us. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and Instagram, both at uNcomfortable Podcast 65. Something that I've been remiss about is not mentioning that many of the episodes are now available on the uNcomfortable Podcast YouTube channel. Those are still in the audio format, but it is another way for people to listen. So, if you want, please head over there and subscribe to that as well. And if you've had an experience and you'd like to have it featured on the show, please contact me at contact.uncomfortable@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in this week, and as always, my friends, stay uncomfortable.
Lowe's knows top outdoor power equipment, and now's the time to get your yard ready for spring with Ego Outdoor Power Equipment starting at $219. Experience the latest innovations in outdoor battery power from Ego, like Speed IQ technology that adapts mower speed to your stride. Get continuous non-stop trimming with the Line IQ string trimmer, and get added steering wheel precision with the E-Steer zero-turn mower. Shop Ego, the #1 rated brand in cordless outdoor power, only at Lowe's today.